Quick and the Dead was 95.
Ah, okay. I was right.
Oh,
I was right.
So it was like right after.
2 years after.
I think if you check out the cinematography, besides the wacky shots of Sam Raimi, it does feel like it has a heavy influence from Tombstone. You know, from the town and the scenery and the shot the shot selection and setup, the showdowns and everything. It looks very like paying homage.
Yeah, I remember, like I said, being a kid and watching this with my grandpa. This was one that stood out because it wasn't a Clint Eastwood, and it wasn't a fucking John Elway. No, not John Elway. John
John Elway.
Uh-oh.
Whoa, John Elway.
Broncos.
God damn.
The fucking Duke. The Duke. It wasn't a Duke movie and shit. So I felt it stuck out for me because seeing those movies with them, like A Nun for Sister Sarah, The Quick and the Dead, and Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
A Fistful of Dollars,
like,
dude.
Fistful of Dollars. Yeah, stuff like that. Seeing all those,
Westerns.
Yeah, seeing all those with him and then seeing this one, it just stuck out to me because it was, to me, seeing it as a kid, it felt more modern, you know? Like it was more relatable. And so to me, it was like kind of like a new generation. Almost how, like if you watch 310 to Yuma nowadays and shit.
It's like a milestone, right?
Correct. Yeah, it almost changed the Western genre for you because of the wittiness, because of the all-star cast. It wasn't just like the main character, which was fucking, you know, the movie star at the time. It actually had versatility. You know, everybody added to it. So, and I know Kurt Russell had a lot to do with the production and the making of this movie. He did a lot to push it and get it out there. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it went through like 2 different directors before it was finally like.
We'll get into that, sir.
I was just saying, like Kurt Russell. I feel like without Kurt Russell in this movie, who knows? Like if he wasn't picked for this role and pushed to make the Wyatt Earp character so iconic and get it with this movie, I don't know if it would have been, you know, done as well, dude. Because I know what's his name, Kevin Costner did a Wyatt Earp movie as well, like a Peacemaker. I want to say it's called.
It's called Wyatt Earp, actually. I think
it's called Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, Wyatt Earp. Yeah.
It came out. That's another one that I had wrote down. That came out. Tombstone was just 6 months shy of Wyatt Earp, so they were kind of competing with each other. Although I believe that Kevin Costner movie is not been, it's not fared as well as far as popularity.
It gets
sorry.
Exactly, it gets compared, like you said, because they were kind of neck and neck. But whichever came out, you know, I feel like Kevin Costner gets gypped because fucking. Kurt Russell did such a great job, and because he also has really good co-stars with him. I mean,
you know who?
Kilmer as
you know how Bill Paxton is in Tombstone, correct? Then they got Dennis Quaid to star alongside Kevin Costner and Wyatt Earp, and I always get them confused. They look. I know they don't really look alike, but they kind of seem
But
similar.
they can, they kind of look. Yeah, I get it.
So
yeah, dude, and also I want to say rest in peace to Bill Paxton, dude. He was fucking amazing in Twister, dude.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Bill Paxton, man. But go ahead.
I was just going to agree with you that you are correct about this movie having some production issues. The first being that the writer, who is Kevin Jars, I think his name was. So he wrote the screenplay, and he was supposed to make his directorial debut. This proved to be obviously too much for him because of the high demand of the cast, and then, you know, it's Tombstone being your first film that must have been fucking scary. So he ran behind, like way behind on shooting schedule. He ended up getting let go by one of the producers of the film, who I guess teamed up with Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell ended up helped hiring George on, right? And and I guess was it George P. Cosmatos, who is actually the father of Mandy director Pathos Cosmatos, which we also did yeah. But anyway, going back to the film, I guess a lot of like the cinematographer had some real big issues with the director Cosmatos or George, and then there were several incidences on set, I guess. Kurt Russell helped rewrite. I guess they totally chopped up the Kevin's former script. I guess it was like too like overly long. It was an overly long script, so they cut out a bunch of subplots and cut down a bunch of dialogue. And I feel like that's why Tombstone, although it runs over 2 hours, it is very minimalist in what it's trying to accomplish story-wise. You know? It feels very traditional.
It's well paced.
Traditional Western as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did notice that, and the part that I noticed that is when they go from the action and then into the part where Josephine and Wyatt are together with their horses and stuff, and it kind of turns into like this long, drawn out, like romantical encounter between them. And it kind of takes you takes you away from the violence of like the cowboys and the Earps and stuff, and it kind of shows you where they kind of give you that Hollywood love story between his side piece and the main and the main good guy. So I really like that aspect of the movie too, even though it's kind of Hollywood. I felt like it should have. It gives you a sense to show you like, yeah, dude, this is a historically accurate movie, but it's a Hollywood feature film. I felt like that the director too. What was his name? George
Cosmatos.
What is it? Yeah, he's really militant on. I've watched a few different like behind the scenes and stuff, and he's really, really like meticulous on what he wants to put into these wide shots. And I heard him say one time that he wanted the person who picks up like the horse poop in there walking around too on set, because that's how they would have it in the real Tombstone. They would have people picking up horse shit throughout the whole city. So he was like, you know what? I want that in the movie. So little details like that he would add into the movie, and I felt like he kind of just like made it his own. He probably just took over. And what was the first guy's name who wrote it? Who wrote the script for the movie?
Kevin Jars, something like that.
Yeah, maybe they just took his idea and ran with it, because I felt like Kurt Russell had like a character, he wanted to become. Because in the interviews where he's talking about this, he's so hyped and he's so happy to play Wyatt Earp. Maybe he had just a connection to that and made it possible because he wanted to bring it to life,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Also, you were talking about George, the director. He passed away in 2005, I believe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's no longer with us, so got to give him his due diligence. He did. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, did he do True Lies?
No, that was James Cameron, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But he did Cobra with Stallone. Rambo Part 2.
Okay.
Oh, he did Rambo 2.
Yeah, that's what he's known for. Those films. He's done quite a few things, but I think those are the two like big, like kind of bigger films in his filmography that I'm aware of, at least. But yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Tombstone actually left out a few relatives of the Earps family. In reality, there was actually 9 of them.
Holy crap!
Wow. So there was not 9 brothers altogether?
9. They had some sisters that they don't ever mention either. There's like 2 or 3 sisters. Yeah. This is the most gnarly one. You guys are going to trip balls if you don't already know this. Kurt Russell, although uncredited, actually hired director George Cosmatos in secret and shot the film himself. They actually struck a deal that the two would never speak of this secret whilst the director was alive.
What?
So I think it was maybe 2013 or around there. Kurt Russell finally fucking spills the beans. And then later in an interview in 2017, Val Kilmer backs up Kurt Russell, saying that, basically paraphrasing, if Kurt hadn't been involved with this film, it would not have been the success that it was.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Sick.
Fucking Kurt
He basically
Russell.
single-handedly like made this movie happen. And if you think about it, this movie's like a cult classic, dude. It's like everybody loves Tombstone, dude.
Like
It's almost like a piece of American history. Yeah.
It's funny. It's turned into kind of like what Poltergeist was, where on the books, Poltergeist was directed by Toby Hooper, who did the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But there's these theories that have been going on for decades that Steven Spielberg actually directed Poltergeist. I don't know if you guys know.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What's the theory behind that?
Just he was obviously he was on set. It was executive produced, but I guess they're saying that supposedly during the production that Toby would start to roll and Spielberg would step in and be like, no, you should do it like this. And then they would realign everything to his vision. So it's like it ended up being, although he didn't want to take away the credit from his friend, because they were close friends at that time, in a weird way, he did kind of direct Poltergeist.
They're here.
Which is a solid film, dude. Poltergeist is amazing. 2 more. The scene in which Wyatt rushes Curly Bill in the creek was actually based on fact. So I guess based one of the cowboys in that real scenario back in the day survived that shootout. Yeah. And later on that night he wrote down, he basically journaled exactly what happened, and that was his words are what's depicted on the film.
On film.
So basically,
he tweeted it, dude.
Yeah, he basically. And my final one before we close out for the evening. Some parts of this film was actually shot at Knott's Berry Farm in Southern California.
Oh my god!
Whoa! No way.
Yeah, I don't know if they still have the area, but back in the day they had the Wild West area, and that's where they shot a bunch of Tombstone that are featured in the film, like actual
headstones. That's really cool, man.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And that wraps up Swan Facts.
Those were sick.
All right.
Thank you guys for tolerating our pick, bro.
Tolerating.
This was fun doing this one.
No.
I feel like James wrecks this like every couple months anyway.
That's cool. I had a lot of fun doing this episode. Thank you guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Very informative.
Dedicate this episode to Bill Paxton and Powers Booth and anybody who passed away while doing this film.
The director, George.
The director. There you go, George. That's who too.
Little Richard. fucking Jerry Stiller.